Please be seated. We now turn our attention to the appropriations to the Minister for Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. Welcome the team from the ministry. The first item on the agenda is PAH1, Advice and Support to the Minister for Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. $4,077,208 in 2020 and $406,286 in 2021. Are there any questions? Member for East End. All in favor of PAH1, Advice and Support to the Minister for Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure for $4,077,208 in 2020 and $4,406,286 in 2021, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Members, I forgot to mention, publicly that we will wind up our committee meeting today at 6 p.m. for everyone's sake, and then we'll recommence tomorrow morning at 9:30. Yeah. Well, get you out at 6 o'clock. You can go, sir. PAH2, Emergency Response Services, 250.
You don't want me there?
Can I put it to the vote?
Yeah. Which one?
All in favor of PAH2, Emergency Response Services, $257,930 in 2020 and $260,832 in 2021. I was putting it to the vote, sir.
No, sir. You were?
Yes. I said all those in favor of. You have questions?
It wasn't with my approval.
I'll give you a bly.
You'll give me a blind?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I again come to these generators that are emergency generators, and respectful ask if those generators continue to be maintained. And by whom?
Mr. Chairman, thank the member for the question. Yes, they are being serviced. They were serviced last in October, and it is being done by the Public Works Department along with HMCI and Facilities Management. No? DVS, not Facilities Management. DVS.
And HMCI, they're going out servicing them?
They're a part of, because it's part of the hurricane preparedness, they're involved in ensuring that they're being serviced.
Oh, they're managing the service. And why is it that there are three different departments managing the servicing of these generators?
Mr. Chairman, I thank the manager for the I thank the member for the question. The Public Works Department handles the servicing, and DVES handles the fueling of the generators. And as we said earlier, AHMCI does inspections to ensure that they're prepared for as a hurricane shelter.
Who serviced the generator end of those generators?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't catch that.
Who serviced the generator end of the generators?
Mr. Chairman, I understand it's being handled by Public Works.
Mr. Chairman, isn't it a fact that some of these generators were being serviced by private sector?
Mr. Chairman, to the member, I'm being reliably informed that there are some that are still under warranty, that the servicing is being done as a part of the warranty agreement.
Which ones, may I ask, if it's that information is available that is under warranty, and what's the warranty period on them?
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. We got ahead of ourselves. The generators that fall under the Public Works Department, under this ministry, we do not have any on warranty. There are some that education, some new ones that education have that we do not have responsibility for that are under warranty. So all of the generators under this ministry are being serviced, as I mentioned earlier.
So those aren't, those are listed as hurricane emergency generators under education?
Mr. Chairman, I can't speak to all of which are under education. The ones that I was speaking earlier, and we got a bit ahead of ourselves on speaking about the generators that are not under our responsibility. But under this ministry, the ones that we have are being serviced by the Public Works Department. We do not currently have any new ones under warranty.
Can someone explain what part of that service is Public Works doing versus what part of the service is DVES doing?
Mr. Chairman, with your support, with your indulgence, I will ask one of the technical team to answer that.
Mr. Chairman, Alan Jones, Chief Officer for the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure. Public Works handle the electrical side of the generator, but DVS do the mechanicals.
Mr. Chairman, I want to specifically talk about two generators in East End. The one at the William Allen McLaughlin Civic Center and the one at the Elliott Connolly Civic Center. Can we find out the age of those? What was the last assessment of those two generators?
Mr. Chairman, we don't have that information with us, but we're sending someone out to get it now. So I'd ask if we can come back to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I wonder if it would be fair to say that there is at least one in East End under Education Department is that being used as a hurricane emergency generator?
Mr. Chairman, obviously I'm neither the Minister for Education or HMCI, so unfortunately I wouldn't have that information here. We can try and get that information. We can contact HMCI and seek that information. Is there a specific generator you're trying to figure out if we service it?
Well, yeah, the one at the school, because I see Public Works there at that. But I don't know if by the minister's answer saying that some are on the Education Department, if that one is. I know it was installed under the supervision of Public Works.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the member, we've sent for a comprehensive list of all the generators, and we'll be able to answer those questions properly once we have it back.
Member Ford, Northside.
Yeah, to you, Mr. Chairman, is there an inspection card next to these generators in the civic centers that, for instance, I could look at to make sure that the guy came and he ticked it and filled out the form?
Sir, through you, Mr. Chairman, the answer is no, but I would certainly take on board the member's suggestion and we will make sure that that's put in place.
But, Mr. Chairman, the reason I asked about the one in East End and the others that are at these schools, if this ministry is responsible because of being the ministry with the technical expertise for the maintenance of generators, that means if the school in East End qualifies as a hurricane shelter, I think it's now down to Category 3. It's no longer a Category 5 shelter. Who then is ensuring that these things are being maintained properly if it is only the 40? I think it's 40 that this for the standby generators. Where are those generators? We have 40 shelters in this country.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that perhaps one of the issues is this speaks to the generators that falls under facilities management, like the ones that we have at the civic centers, et cetera, government administration building. Perhaps, so, but we have no problem in answering the questions, but we were speaking to these where this ministry has the responsibility. Public Works, as you know, can be contracted by other ministries to do work for them. So, but I think we have the information here now. We'll be able to tell you which generators are under what ministry.
But
You want to know about the East End Primary School.
But there are 40 standby generators under this that is being maintained around the clock.
Mr. Chairman, we have from our list within the Public Works Department, we only have the East End Civic Center on the service schedule. Again, perhaps the school is under warranty if it's a new generator.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that generator went in. It stood there for a couple of years just on the base, and I think it was commissioned about maybe 2-3 years ago. So maybe that's still under warranty, but I don't know if the warranty is off it because they bought a cover of it. But the one at the Gun Bay Civic Center is at the very least 2 hurricane generators, considered hurricane generators. The one at the school, I know the school has been downgraded to grade category 2 or 3, and I don't know who maintains that either. Mr. Chairman, I want a minister to know that I don't want to come across as a troublemaker, but we have traversed this ground in the last 10 or so years, every budget. And every budget, we wind up with the same answers. 50% of the generators, nobody knows how they are being maintained. And we keep agreeing that if those things are not done bi-monthly at least, with load on them, that they will be of no use when the time comes that you need them. Now, the quantity here says that they are checked the timeliness says bi-weekly during inactivity, during their inactive status, and during hurricane season. And that's twice a week. And the answer I got was that they were last done in October. Been a couple of weeks since then. I don't know. I am, Mr. Chairman, to the minister, I'm concerned about these generators. I experienced it in Hurricane Ivan and the extent that I had to go and repair the generator to maintain it. And that's what generators do. Nobody's fault, other than if you do not change the components, radiators and the like, they're going to shut down. And they're no use for extended periods of running, like aftermath of hurricanes or during a hurricane.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, so if the member could give me, because we're going round in circles, is there a question that I can answer, specific that I can answer for the member? Is it to do with the East End? Or I can confirm that we have responsibility and we service 43 generators. So we've confirmed that.
But only one in East End.
I'm going, Mr. Chairman, through you, I will have one of the team respond and give details on the East End generators.
Nyasha Brady, Deputy Director, Operations, Public Works. Through you, Mr. Chair, we actually service all generators in East End currently. Of the 2 or 3 that's there, one of them is obviously the Civic Center is a hurricane shelter. But as you are aware, you should have been aware, the East End Primary School received a generator procured by the Education Department recently, and that one we actually currently service as well.
And 2 then you're saying at the Civic Center and there.
Sorry, we actually recently added Gun Bay recently. That was originally serviced by corporate, if I'm not mistaken, and then we have recently started servicing that one as well.
How many corporate servicing?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the only other generator that is being maintained by corporate is the one located in Bordentown, which is actually currently still under warranty. Bordentown Police Station, which is currently under warranty.
Is the school at Eastern under warranty though? The one at the East End School I'm talking about. just
Yeah, I realize that. Sorry. Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, the Easton Primary School generator is no longer under warranty. So Public Works continue to maintain that one.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wonder how long these warranties are for, because that means the Bottom Town one would be off it too.
Sometimes, through you, Mr. Chair, it depends. At minimum, it's generally maybe around about a year or so, but you can request for extended warranty. That would probably take it up to 5 years.
Oh, okay. It's on the extended warranty. Why didn't we do that with the one East Stand too?
The one in Easton, or Easton Primary School, that one was actually acquired by Ministry of Education. So we would not have pretty much, I mean, they would have had to negotiate it, that when they originally tendered or procured that generator.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if I can be told if we have standardized these generators, everybody order what they want.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in general, what I can say is currently what your suggestion is something definitely PWD is looking into doing or initiating in terms of standardizing all generators. But currently, because we work on behalf of several different departments, we pretty much, or I guess, led by their decision or our client's decision in that matter. But I'll also have the director of DVS to also respond in regards to the standardization of these equipment.
You say you're looking into it, or you're going to look into it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that initiative is something we're definitely looking into currently.
Stephen Quinlan, Director, DVS. Through you, Mr. Chair. This is something that the Minister has talked to on great length. I have been appointed newly Director, DVS. It is something that we have been looking at for standardization, not just in the vehicle fleet, but also our equipment. In the past, our equipment was not centrally procured by one particular entity. We still have that issue. We're trying to standardize generators that are under our control right now. We still have a long way to go. So, yes, sir, it is something that we have been advocating and working towards standardization of the generators.
And may I just ask, Mr. Chairman, the two at the civic centers in East End, especially Gun Bay, is that operational now, since we had such a fuel problem with it?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that generator had quite a few problems. Also, it sustained a lightning strike. It's up and running. We tested it last week. Also, the new service schedules will begin on December the 2nd, which will go through the entire island once again. But it is up and running, sir.
And we do put them on the connected load.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, we do, sir.
For how long?
It is required. We usually run them about an hour to 2. I know your recommendations, which you've said in the past, we should run them for the entire day. Unfortunately, at this point, we do not have the manpower to man all the generators running at that. We still do an extensive run with the petroleum inspectorate as well, and the hurricane committee as well. When they do their inspections, we do run them for an extended period of time, but we do not run them the entire day.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, go. Please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, if I may say, by recommendation through the member from East End, we did do a full refurbishment on the Civic Center, East End Civic Center. We also did the full scope of checks on the stator and all parts in that, and it is up to speed. Our checks 2 weeks ago, we ran the generator, and it is operational, sir.
Do we do that on? Do we do stator inspection on all of these? The 4 to 1, 4 to 2.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, can you repeat, sir?
Do we do stator inspection on the 4 to 2?
We do from time to time. It's not a regular thing that we do unless it is at that threshold that it requires that check.
Okay.
If there are no further questions, all in favor of PAH2, Emergency Response Services, $257,930 in 2020 and $260,832 in 2021. Starting part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. PAH4, Public Parks and Cemeteries, Maintenance and Management, $2,620,770 in 2020 and $2,064,111 in 2021. Are there any questions? Member for Northside, you caught my eye first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you to the Minister, Kaibo is washing away. I have been trying to get the erosion stopped for 5 years. Since we last brought this up in Finance Committee, we have lost close to an acre. A couple of weeks ago, the dock that used to be 6 feet on shore, I went down there to launch my boat and it was 3 feet out in the sea. I had to call Public Works and request some emergency repair because that dock is used by a lot of people using the ferry across the Sound from Moritz and the Reef, and those people had placed a tree trunk for the tourists to walk on. And in about a week to 10 days, Public Works actually came up and added the necessary 8 to 10 feet onto the dock to put it back on land. Now, Mr. Chairman, I raised this during my debate, and the ministry's solution to the problem is a system of groins, which they say will work. Groins have been in the Kemankai area since 1972, 73, and they have not worked. The best example of that is the current public beach on which the government is invested into restroom facilities. In the last year and a half, we have probably lost about 10 feet of the beach. And there's a ground on the western boundary, there's a ground on the eastern boundary of the property, and the property is disappearing. I have some photos here that I'll ask Mr. Chris to send around to members. One of the photos is looking from the middle of the property, east of the ground, and the other is from the same spot on the property, looking west. And it is clear that the groin system is not working. We have in Cayman Kai used for the last 30 years, maybe more than, maybe 35 years. What I have asked the government to consider doing with the Kaibo in that is a low cement wall around the property to retain it. And I took the time this weekend to go down to a Rum Point and actually take photos of the kind of wall that I want to put in, that and the community is recommended, because this is not my ideas, this is the developers, Mr. Mike Dice himself, and other people's idea that the solution to Kaibo is a low wall, and we have recommended that they buy those 4 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet interlocking bricks that Biggie's cement factory currently produces, right? And these two pictures, Mr. Chairman, clearly demonstrate how these walls work and have been working for the last 30 to 35 years. Quite effective, and the solution with the concrete bricks is probably a maximum of $150,000, not including the backfill of sand that is supposed to be harvested from the Sandpoint area. And if the government does not harvest that sand, it is going to block the entrance to the cove. It's already filled up halfway across. You don't have to believe me? You can get in a boat and go there right now. Because the government allowed one person to put rocks in the water to claim the land. I asked planning to go. Their inspectors went on high tide and said the rocks were in the water. Wasn't their responsibility, it was DOE. I called DOE. DOE went on low tide and said the rocks were not in the water, so it wasn't their responsibility. So the man continues to claim land. You can go there now, right next to the Foster's house, and you will see the original dock that was on that piece of property where his property ended. And it's approximately 100 feet that he has claimed. He has constructed a 30 or 40 foot dock on the reclaimed land. He went out and bought big coconut trees and planted them so it looked like the coconut trees grow there. They're new coconut trees, right? So much so that a former member of this house used to go to take fishing. So he went and got an Adirondack chair, put his name on it, and put it there for him to fishing from. Mr. Chairman, through you to the minister, the solution being proposed by the ministry is $1 million. My position is, let's do it incrementally. Let's try my wall for $150,000. If it doesn't work, we can put in the grinds for $1 million. We put in the grinds for $1 million, and it doesn't work, and it is not going to work. I know that my discussion with the ministry, technical staff, they claim that this new groin expert is telling them that the radius of the curve of the groins is going to protect the sand, and the sand going to stay in the middle. Well, you look at the pictures I just sent out, the sand is gone out of the middle, right? And if you don't do something to put a wall there too, as is in these pictures which I'm going to circulate now, Chris, send these around to me, please. By the time you finish building our restroom, it got to be the sea. So I'm asking the ministry, Mr. Chairman, to let's take a common sense approach to this thing. Approach that we know the developers themselves have used in the area, an approach that we can demonstrate has been effective. And let's not risk going. And the other thing that bothers me, Mr. Chairman, is this $1 million solution was supposed to be done last year in 2018. Nothing has been done to date. And in the meantime, we're losing property. I can show you the pictures with the dock in the water. So I would ask the minister.
I'm looking for a form of a question, sir.
No, the question is, will the ministry consider using what the community and the person who developed the land is recommending, as opposed to what the expert that they have consulted is recommending?
Mr. Chairman, thank the member for the question. Mr. Chairman, I took an undertaking. I promised the member that we would address the issue. We hired through the ministry a coastal engineering firm, Olson and Associates. We inquired about the block system. We were informed through that report that it would diminish the usability of the beach, but also create further environmental damage. The firm came back with what they call not your normal groins that the member was showing pictures of, where and not to confuse where the bathroom is going on the public beach on that LPP to the Kaibo beach that we're speaking to. It's not the same groins. This, Mr. Chairman, is referred to as a rock T-head groin. That is done in conjunction with a head rock groin, beach fill, and a rock revetment. We've seen examples of where this has worked in the past. It's a T, sort of a T designed with a T-type groin based and placed based on the currents, etc., to trap the sand inside and rebuild the beach out. Mr. Chairman, we shared this design with the member. More importantly, we have the full support of the National Conservation Council and the Department of Environment on the design. We are at a position now, Mr. Chairman, where we would like to bring a cabinet paper to request the funding from the National Conservation Council to carry out the works. The National Conservation Council had suggested that we use the funding of the initial $10 million that were given to the government to purchase lands to secure for the future, for future use of Caymanians. Unfortunately, those monies had been committed to purchasing properties, and so we are hoping that we will be able to get dedicated funding from the National Conservation Council for this project. If they, which we are preparing that paper now, if the member is insistent that we spend the money to get an engineer to develop or design the block system and go back to the NCC and the Conservation Council, we can do that. We covered that. That was identified in the very first report done by Olson and Associates, and I think the result may end up being the same, but it's up to the member, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the member, I am not a coastal engineer, and I don't make any claims to be. But I know, I live in the area. I go there every Sunday. I grew up in the area, right? And if the minister and his team is absolutely confident that this sophisticated groin system, and you're talking about the use of the beach, nobody will be able to call out those groins. And the pictures that I saw, I don't know how you can have children playing around them. What kind of cap you can put on top of them to keep children from getting injured on top of these groins, right? Whereas the system that seems to work in the Cayman Kai area is these low blocks, and what I suggested in addition, the one dock that we have now is too high for personal watercraft and too high for most small boats that may come up to the area. If we put a dock over the concrete blocks, then we kill two birds with one stone. But I'm happy to take the ministry's recommendation if they are sure it's going to work. But, Mr. Speaker, the other thing is, when is it going to happen? We are now 1 year and 11 months since we agreed this in 2018, and we're only now getting to the stage of taking a paper to council. So is this when it's going to happen, 2021? Because you're going to have to get this engineer and expert now to come down and measure the groins and do all those calculations and how much that's going to cost. But if the minister is confident, my only concern is Kaibo is washing away. And we need to do something about it. But if the minister is convinced, I can promise him that he can fail a member's question every meeting this house done. What's the progress? What's the progress? What's the progress? Second thing, Mr. Chairman, that I need to raise is that from the previous government, when Mr. Wayne Pannon was the minister responsible for the environment, it's recorded in the Hansard that he said he would drive the excavator himself, remember? To harvest the sand off the Sandpoint shore. That's 3 or 4 years ago. Since that time, the area is building up. There is currently one lot left that is not built on that you could use to take an excavator and a truck down to get the sand. So at a very minimum, out of the matter of urgency, right, and to prevent the sand from blocking off the entrance to the cove, the government needs to harvest the sand, and you can pile it up at Kaibo Beach. Because you had to get filled some way. And remember that the landowners there, some of them have already surveyed it and tried to get it registered in Lands and Survey, the extra 200 feet out in the sea. And they are currently running people who pull up there with a boat and want to spend some time in the water on Sunday off the land. So my concern, Mr. Chairman, to the minister is something needs to be done. You can't explain to me that it takes 1 year and 11 months to get something done. Mr. Chairman, if I get 2 pennies, they can come arrest me because I can't put the blocks down the water.
Mr. Chairman, I completely understand the member's frustration. I think we are certainly in a position to move forward. We have done the legwork. It is a matter of securing the financing, having already gotten the approval from or the blessings from the National Conservation Council. Not being an engineer myself, I can only take the advice of the contracted engineer who also have a local track record and work with a local firm. And I'm willing to proceed down this road. As I said, we're preparing the cabinet paper to seek the funding from the National Conservation Fund as soon as we can.
One more question, Mr. Does other members, you looked at the photos, don't you all agree to me that that low cement wall is working? You can go up there in Boniface and them house now, you know, been there for 30 years, right? And properties that join the Kaibo Beach have put that wall in further up the thing, and it's working. It's been working for 10, 15 years. But anyway, I'm not a coastal engineer, Mr. Chairman. I accept the minister's technical team saying that's the solution, and they're going to get it done. I'll leave it there for now.
All in favor of PAH 4, public parks and cemeteries?
Mr. Chair.
Oops. Oh, no. Sorry. Member for West Bay South.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, first of all, I want to thank the Minister and the team for the work that has begun at both the Garvin Park and the cemetery, the West Bay Cemetery, the new cemetery that is in train, but I would like to ask through him and if his technical team could possibly provide an update for the benefit of the listening public, Mr. Chair. As you know, I've spoken in this House on a number of occasions on both of these matters, and so certainly my constituents in West Bay South and all residents of West Bay would like to hear the status of the work that is being done at Garvin Park, in particular the work as it relates to the completion of the boat ramp and the dock, and also the status of the cemetery and when we can possibly expect to be able to actually utilize the new cemetery, because as you know, the West Bay Cemetery situation is quite dire. So.
Thank the member for the question. Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, I'll have one of the team respond.
Good afternoon. Leda Nicholson McCassider, Director of Public Works, acting. Minister Chair, through you, on Gavin Parks and the extension of the ramp reconstruction, design is completed. DOA has given their review of Coastal Works license application. It's actually with the Ministry of Health, and we're awaiting their submission to Cabinet for an approval, and we're hoping to tender the works in December, providing we get the relevant approval. With regards to the cemetery, I'll just turn that over to my other counterpart, Mr. Chair. That's with the dock design. Yes, yes.
Member for Northside.
We're waiting on an update on both the cemetery in particular.
I got it now.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify that we plan to, the tender is out. We plan to have that close at the end of January with regards to the dock, and then works will commence accordingly after that.
Mr. Chairman, I think the other question was on the cemetery.
Okay. Mr. Chair, through you, with regards to the cemetery, NRA has prepared the site. We have done the necessary preliminary works and has now turned it over to DEH for the construction of the vaults. I'm reliably informed.
So, Mr. Chairman, what are you saying then, that we should be talking to them? I would like to see the sketch or plan, whatever they have. So should talk to them?
Mr. Chairman, through you, yes, the construction of the vaults are normally done by DEH and the engineering crew from them. Yes, sir.
And they would have Mr. Chairman, they would have the plans?
Mr. Chair, through you, I can't speak for DEH, but those are the persons that are responsible, that have responsibility for drawing up the plans. Yes, sir.
Member for Northside, you had another question.
A few more, Mr. Chairman, please. Through you to the minister, can I get a commitment that the minister is going to do something about the closure of the entrance to the cove? You see this map here? You see this whole area here? It's called the Cove. Okay? This is halfway across because planning and DOH has allowed this man in this house here to put rocks in the water and clean the land. Right? And the opening there was half what it was. I have been talking about this for 4 years. And it keeps going more and more and more. What are you going to tell all these multi-million-dollar people house up there when they can't get their boat out the cove?
Mr. Chairman, I will give the member an undertaking that I will work along with the Department of Environment, that ministry, and find a solution. We will certainly look at it. If the cove has to be redredged or opened, I give the minister, Mr. Chairman, my undertaking that I will certainly personally look into the matter and see what solutions are available to us.
Used to be a 6-foot right away to the beach, right there. All walled in. Alex, Mr. Chairman, second question is, can I get a commitment or from the ministry as to when they're going to attempt, or do they intend to harvest the sand that is all out? Yes, so these people dock that they had in the water, that they had 4 feet to the water, is 150 feet up on land. And they have surveyed it, and they're trying to register it as their parcel. The plan with Mr. Bean Ponder that we discussed 3-4 years ago, you remember, Mr. Hyde, you remember, right? Okay. Was that they were going to give the man back the 4-foot water by his dock. And they were going to take all the sand off there, and they were going to leave a little piece out here for the people to enjoy as a little island off the shore. It will eventually wash away. But nothing is being done. Mr. Chairman, I want to make it clear to the minister, I now hold him responsible for this, you know. This is
I understand.
This is not world-class civil service that's supposed to have done all these things.
But I think he's given the commitment to do what he can do to address the issues and to ensure that that it remains open.
Mr. Chairman, I am certainly aware of the member raising this issue in the past. Truthfully, I do not know whether this sits within our ministry or not. However, as I said to the member on the previous matter, I will once and for all see if I can place responsibility, if not take it ourselves, on finding a solution.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, for some 3 years, I have been told that money was in the budget to replace the dock by the edge with a concrete dock and proper pilings, because they allowed Sanford and Son to mash it up. Yeah. When can I expect that something is going to be done about the dock at the edge?
Mr. Chairman, I am unaware of this one, so I'll ask one of my team with your permission, to respond.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Charles Brown, Senior Policy Officer with the Ministry of CPI. In previous discussions with the member, I have notified him that the Northside dock is under development. We are doing this in conjunction with the Bordentown dock for what is intended to be a very permanent solution, a rebuild of the existing dock. And we are looking at both concrete solutions and wooden top plate solutions. Those drawings are prepared, and we are currently getting ready to do an RFP. Hopefully we will have that out by mid-December, with early start for construction and award in the beginning of the year. I can also.
From Northside, do you have another question?
I do. Yes, sir. You said the drawings are ready. Would it be possible for me to get a copy of it so I can discuss it with the fishermen? Because the last time you and I talked, you were talking about raising the level or lowering it or something, and I said the fishermen didn't want that done. So we need to find out. And through you, Mr. Chairman, can I get an undertaking for you that the money is the budget this year is going forward next year, so construction can start in January? You're the Minister of Finance, or they can have an ask you, they can carry it forward, right?
Well, they can't carry it forward. We'd have to look to find other means to fund it in 2020 if it isn't in the budget at this time.
Well, then they shouldn't be sending out an RFP in December if they can't carry the money forward, because what's the point? I know. I just want commitment from him that that they can be okay. The second question concerning that dock, Mr. Chairman, we have a perpetual approval to clean out around the dock, deepen it when it gets filled up. In the process of constructing it, is the dock going to be the same length it is, or am I getting the extra 10 feet that we wanted extended?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the intention is to extend the dock, as discussed, and we will be, because of the low entry, the shallow entry from the channel, it is likely that we would have to construct this dock on a pad from the land side. So there will be a process of laying down a pad to put in the piles and then construct the top plate from that position. The Coastal Works license, sir, for this dock has not been applied for yet, but it will be submitted for shortly as well.
So we need a coastal works license to replace the dock, but Imperato don't need one to move Iron Joe Rump Point. We can't get him prosecuted. No, it's true. I gave you the pictures of the machine and water. He says upland, but that's like DH and planning. One go at low tide, one go at high tide, depending on what they want to find when they get there.
I can confirm, sir, that the monies are in the budget to start this project early next year.
But my question is now, are you going to apply to, as part of your Coastal Works license, to remove the ledge that is at the end of the dock now, which reduces the depth to about 18 inches from the 6 foot beside the dock?
The scope of works at this time is to build a new dock, and no deepening will be pursued at this time.
But it don't make sense to build a dock longer if you're not going to remove the ledge. That's a waste of government money.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's, I hear the member, I think it's only fair that we do either send you a copy or have you come in and sit with us and go through the proposed.
That's appreciated, Mr. Minister. Okay, thank you. But they go need to do some digging of that ledge. Right.
And Member for Northside, just for clarity's sake, 2019 is the expiration year, and December 31st of this year, all appropriations for this 2-year budget period that we are in will expire. I understand, for 2020-21. Thanks.
I don't want to be back here 2022 talking about Kaibo and the dock now, you know.
All in favor of PAH?
No, Mr. Chairman, I had some questions.
Okay. Member for Newlands.
Last Finance Committee, Mr. Chairman, I had made a request that, and I know this is a little bit outside the norm, but we do have parks in some of the subdevelopments, for example, up in the Frank Hall Homes, that have been created by residents and groups, whoever, but they're not being maintained. And I know from time to time I'll get the nice participants to clean up and so on. I had made a request that the minister consider just making that part of the regular maintenance. I know that it's an added cost to government, but inevitably government ends up doing it anyway. So is that something that has been looked at and included in the regular cleanup this time?
Mr. Chairman, thank the member for the question. Mr. Chairman, at this time, we still continue to struggle with the private parks, as they are private parks. It would, I guess, perhaps require a policy decision from the government. We have increased the funding, but we've increased the funding because of the expansion of some of our parks and beaches, as well as we were taking back over the what have been referred to over the years as the DART parks. Will come back under the fold of the Parks and Recreation sector of Public Works. All I can say to the member, what I can undertake with to the member again is, we're happy to work along with the member and assist wherever we can with the community in cleaning up those parks when it's needed.
Thank you. Yeah, I was about to ask about the difference in amounts budgeted year to year, while there are no changes in quantities, but thanks to the minister for that. And just to let him know, I'm starting a register of commitments over here so we can keep track of all the commitments.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the member. The Gerald Smith Park in Northside is still maintained by the DART organization and not.
Yeah. Leda Nicholson McCassidy, Acting Director of PWD. Mr. Chair, through you, yes, that park is still being maintained by the DART and will be maintained until the 31st of December. As of the 1st of January, PWD will take possession of it.
Because to say it's being maintained is a white lie. And I know that, so you're taking it over January 1. All right, thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, my apologies. I would have to ask this one on behalf of the member from Savannah who's not here, but
Let me actually give way to the gentleman next
Yeah.
to you, and then I will come back to you. Member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can the minister tell me how many members of the Parks and Recreation are employed in that unit? I'm happy to wait for the answer a little bit later on.
Mr. Chair, I beg your indulgence. As I said, I am acting, and that information I don't have readily available, but I will find out. I'm just being advised it's a total of about 24.
Okay, since we have the answer, I'll have a follow-up then. Through you, Mr. Chair, can we say when was the last time the workers in this area of work with the Parks and Recreation has had a pay review?
Mr. Chair, can I ask the member to please repeat the question?
When was the last time the employees that work in the parks and cemeteries maintenance, I guess, group, I'm not sure what you call them, because they all fall under Public Works, but particularly these folks, because they have a specific job, when was the last time they had a pay review of their salary?
Mr. Chair, through you, it's the RPCS section of PWD. I don't have the information when they were last had a pay review, but we are in the process of looking at the entire Public Works, the ones that are on wages, to look at how we can assess and moving them to salary base. So I couldn't say that, but they are a part of the regular civil service, so any COLA adjustments they're adjusted as well.
Go ahead, sir, and then I'm going to come to you.
okay. Just with regard to the park up by the Nurse Josie Center, that is currently being maintained by DART. is that included in this takeover, this handover of maintenance?
Mr. Chair, through you, yes, if it's being currently maintained by the DART, we will be taking it over as of January 1st.
Member for West Bay North.
Mr. Chair, through you, I want to get it clear. So all of these DART parks, what was the initial agreement when this big PR work was done with these DART parks? And now I understand we're taking them all over.
Mr. Chair, through you, I think the initial agreement was that DARC would maintain him for a period of time. Subsequent to that, though, I think government did approach them and asked for them to extend that period, and it has been extended. They approached us early this year to they gave us 1 more year extension, so it will expire on the, like I said, the 31st. With the exception of the actual park that is called DART Park, which is a South Sound Park. All the other ones we will be taking over.
All in favor of P8?
Mr. Chair. Sorry, I think I have to take this opportunity. Hello?
Member for East End.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, I wonder if I can be told if the parks unit has dropped some areas where they were previously cleaning and discontinued cleaning some areas.
Mr. Chair, through you, I am not aware of that. We try to work with the resources we have. Our RPCU team, as well as our Public Works team, remain committed, and whatever is under our responsibility, we try our best to maintain them.
Those that you had since you've been there, you mean? I hope that's what you're speaking for. That is acceptable to me on her behalf.
Mr. Chairman, is the member concerned about a particular park? Perhaps we could answer.
There are a number of them in East End that they no longer clean.
Mr. Chair, through you, if the member would indicate to us those particular parks, I will see to it as acting director that we review and check on those particular parks that are in question.
Okay. The park on Fiddler's Way is needing repairs as well. The park in front of the Church of God on the side of the road, the beautification that was started for visit by royal visits at the beginning of Frankstown Road. I mean, I asked about the cleaning of new properties that government has bought recently. Are they going to be under the parks unit or under the facilities management?
Mr. Chair, through you, we are working closely with the Lands Commission and properties that have been acquired, the ones that they would like us to maintain, they have advised us of that. If a park is being developed on that, then the maintenance would, of course, we would assume responsibility for that, and we rely on the Ministry of Lands to advise us accordingly.
Have you been advised on any in East End?
Minister Chair, through you, I can't recall any of in East End at the moment. but that does not say that my RPCU team have not been advised. I just don't have that information present with me.
Can I ask if, Mr. Chairman, if someone can check into at least 3 pieces that were bought in East End under the dispensation of, what was it, 10 million? I believe. The rack of the blowholes across from the clinic and across from the United Church. All coastal properties. I don't want to say beach because the blowholes don't have any beach. I have also been trying through the ministry and Public Works to try and see if we can come up with a solution for parking there. We have had a number of times that we were supposed to visit, and that is true NRA as well. I am yet to. I turned up on the site, but nobody comes. And I just wonder why I turn up on site for the 10 o'clock meetings and nobody's there. And I have asked it for the one at across from the clinic East End to be cleaned, but that has not been done. So I would ask if we can find out if who is going to be responsible for those. Mr. Chairman, the matter of salary, Public Works changing from weekly to salary base came up. And when you open doors here, people push them. When will that be completed?
Sorry, before that, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to confirm to the member that he is absolutely right. We, as a government, spent $10 million in securing property, mainly coastal properties, for the people of the Cayman Islands. I'm especially pleased that we were able to get the 3 properties in East End, and we will ensure that that we work along with the Public Lands Commission and the member in maintaining them.
Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
Minister Chair, through you. With regards to the salary review, we are working closely with the ministry and POX. There are some changes to legislation that is required, and as soon as that change is done, we have made accommodation in this budget submission that will take account for that, providing it's approved.
To change from weekly pay to salary pay is a requirement for legislation, change in legislation?
Mr. Chair, through you, it does require a change in legislation. Many of our Public Works staff members work 40-hour week, and the present legislation only speaks to 37 and a half.
So put on 37 and a half. That don't need legislation changes. Now, if you want to keep them in that indentured slavery at 40 hours, then we will have to change the legislation. Yeah.
But you can go down.
Well, you can go down. You can give. You can't take away.
Minister Chair, just for clarification, with regards to the salary review and the move from wages to salary, this have been going on in consultation with our team and our staff members for some time, and they have expressed they would like to maintain their 40-hour weeks. So we're doing these changes in regards to the 40-hour week as opposed to cutting them back down to 37 and a half.
No, I wasn't saying cut their pay. I was saying cut their hours. don't get me wrong now. Let's not mix up the numbers that I'm talking about. Just cut their hours and maintain their wage. No, but I'm sure you'll work that out. You're capable enough of figuring that out. Mr. Chairman, I need to ask the acting director if it is a policy of Public Works in particular now to engage Caymanians upon completion of their probationary period on contract. Defined contract.
Minister Chair, can he ask that question again for me, please, through you?
Is it the policy of government, and in particular, Public Works in this case, for the purposes of this, to engage Caymanians permanently after probationary period on defined contracts?
Minister Chair?
You frightened?
Minister Chair, through you, it is my understanding that if you're a Caymanian, you're on fixed-term contract. Open-ended, sorry, it's not on a fixed-term contract, you're in an open-ended contract. I don't know the specifics to which you're asking, but that's
No,
my
and
understanding.
And I would not even venture there, not in this forum, but I'll address it. I am happy to hear that because I believe it is my view, my belief, my understanding that that could very well be the case with some of the Caymanian professionals up there, that they're on defined employment contracts. And we're not going to go there, but I'll discuss it off here with the acting director.
Member for Georgetown Central, after which I'll put this to the vote.
Don't forget the member from Georgetown South as well, Mrs. Chair. Mr. Chair, can the minister say if there have been new outlets put in at the airport park? He may recall that we discussed this in the last finance committee, in the last budget, requesting for additional outlets to be placed at the airport park because there's only one outlet location. And I was given commitment back then that there would be some installs. So I just want to know if they have been done. That's 2 years now.
Minister Chair, through you, I don't have that information presently, but we're checking and we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
But we do recall that request.
Thank you. Moving on, Mr. Chair, through you, if my memory serves me well, when the NICE program is in operation, the Christmas cleanup, they do assist with some of the outputs that I see listed here in PH4, which is parks and sites and streets and sidewalk maintenance. Would that be correct? And do they assist with, say, for instance, the upkeep, the painting and stuff like that? They fall underneath that?
Mr. Chairman, we use the members of the NICE program in various areas. depending on the need at the time, but they're not a part of the normal maintenance, no. As you know, we have addressed things such as the sargassum on the beach. In this cohort, we are working along with MRCU on cleaning up and fighting the fight against the dengue fever. So wherever there is a need, as a member from Newland said, we often help out with parks, etc. But they're not a part of the regular program, no.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, there is a number of parks that were, I think, created under development purposes, community developments, and public open spaces. Does the Park and Recreations deal with them, or can they be requested by the public to look into them?
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, through you, as discussed earlier with the member from Newlands, those are private parks, usually maintained by the community, an excellent opportunity for community involvement, some of the service clubs. We would need a policy change from the government to maintain those. However, quite often we're called on by the community when they are doing cleanups or in their need of cleanups. We can assist, and wherever we can with equipment or manpower, we can assist. There's also opportunities with the inmates from Her Majesty's Prison, service clubs, others, and even there we will join in the effort.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, just to follow up on the parks concern. Throughout these developments, part of the arrangement to allow the development is through these public open spaces, and there's a number of them that are not in use. They're just not used by the community. I've heard whispers of landowners trying to go back and either take the land, because the land is technically still underneath their name. Is that allowed? Because it isn't. First, let me just ask you that: is that allowed to happen?
Mr. Chairman, that falls under lands and survey. But what I do know is that when it's registered as a LPP, land for public purpose, you can't build on it. You can't get planning permission to build on it. So, but that is a lands and survey register question, I would say.
Thank you. And just if you can, when we get to that line item, remember that question, because I'm going to ask it, because I want to make sure that to find out the answer to whether or not, because as far as I know, it still would be registered in the developer's name, the land, that they can't then, after a number of years, go and say, well, the community didn't use it, I'm taking it back.
Mr. Chairman, when a property's proposed subdevelopment is submitted, they have to identify areas within that development for public purpose. Just like the roads within that development, that land remains as part of the parcel original owner. There would have to be a cabinet paper and requested and brought to the House on behalf of the Central Planning Authority to change the zoning from LPP to whatever to build on it. So that is very rare. If it does happen, there are instances where other property can be identified and a switch can be done. There are instances where sometimes the properties are accidentally zoned as LPP, those sorts of things, but it would require a zoning change.
By cabinet.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Chair, just to add to what the minister is saying, to add some clarity, what I've come across is that one LPP land may be adjoining or right next to someone's property. What they start to do is maintain it themselves, and slowly it becomes part of their yard, basically. And they start to use it for personal things more than community. I think that's what generally happens, and then it becomes almost the perception is that it belongs to that individual.
Okay. Member for Georgetown South, I believe you had a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you to the acting director, Public Works. Can the acting director say whether there's any plans to build restroom facilities in the park in Windsor Park?
Minister Chair, through you. At present, we don't have any plans to build restrooms. We're trying to look at our parks policy from Public Works to develop parks. We want to encourage wherever the parks are for people to walk to them. At the same time, they're in small communities, and hopefully those individuals, unless there's a park that have a full-fledged rec center where they're having, games and stuff played where you need sports teams to change. We have to manage these, but we are looking at that. But to your question, Minister Chair, through you, we don't have any plans at present for that.
Mr. Chair, through you to the acting director, is there any plans to upgrade the restrooms at Smith Barcadere? And if so, any time frame for that to be done?
Minister Chair, through you, as a part of the whole Smith Barcadere redevelopment, yes, there is plans to upgrade the existing restroom to facilitate that whole development area. So we're hoping to continue those works on that. At present, we're still awaiting BCU, some approval for BCU to continue.
Chairman, if I may, and Mr. Chairman, this is for the minister. I completely forgot this. Who is responsible for the Gun Bay Civic Center? Is that facilities management? And I'm talking specifically about those lights on the basketball field? Sports? Sports?
That is correct, sir.
So you pay the bills, but they turn them on. But they are, Minister, those are specifically connected to the facilities, that there is a control switch. So I would think that facilities management is paying the bill.
Troy Worms, Director of Facilities Management. Approximately 2 years ago, I met with the Director of Sports, who expressed that they would be ordering lights. Nothing has been done at this time, and from what I understand, the intent was not to continue going that route, and I'm not sure why, so I would redirect that question to the Director of Sports.
Could you please explain that? Not going that route, meaning he was going to turn night into day?
It was based on, Troy Worms, Director of Facilities Management, it was based on the need at the time. We haven't had that conversation in about 2 years approximately, so I don't know if that need has changed. So I would redirect that to the Director of Sports. Okay, well,
Mr. Chairman, I think the need has changed in that there is an extremely robust committee, I should call it, in Gun Bay, at the Gun Bay Church now. Youth and some of the adults in the neighborhood are entertaining and managing kids on at least 3 nights out of the week, but they cannot play the basketball nor volleyball because that's a multi-sport court. Can can you do, will you do it, or do I have to engage the Minister for Sports with it?
Troy Williams, Director of Facilities Management, through you, Mr. Chair. I personally will speak to the Director of Sports and express that concern and do my very best to get that up and running as you would like to.
Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate the young man saying that he will do that for me, but he better get him before he get there.
All in favor of PAH for public parks and cemeteries maintenance and management, $2,620,770 in 2020, $2,064,111 in 2021. Standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. PAH 8, Management of Special Projects, $2,119,451 in 2020, $2,042,186 in 2021. Questions? For Bodden Town West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the Honorable Minister. I noticed that this vote dropped roughly 658,000 from the 2019 forecasted position. I'm just trying to figure out where is this 24% decrease in cost, what's driving it? Because I noticed the metrics have also remained the same. So I'm just a little bit curious why the decrease when the measurements are the same.
Mr. Chairman, while my team gets ready to answer that question, I just wanted to update the committee on the question from the member from Georgetown Central on the airport park. Additional outlets were added and all of the lights were upgraded to LED.
Oh, Georgetown, but that boy don't want to do what he's saying. Huh? My cousin, he looked up for me. I don't care what kind of cousin he is. See him came and just live in East End Gambia. Want to get them lights in before the next teardrop fall, because it got be plenty falling.
Leda Nicholson McCassidy, Acting Director of Public Works. Mr. Chair, through you, it's a reallocation from cybersecurity and SBDC, Small Business Development Center, and it's been reallocated to PH1.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I couldn't help but notice that this vote includes MPA3 and PWD8. But when I look at MPA3, I notice in terms of quantity, there's also something there concerning the national energy policy. And I'm just exactly trying to wonder what special projects is being undertaken with regards to the national energy policy.
Mr. Chair, through you, the national energy policy, we have various mandates with regards to goals and that we're trying to achieve under this ministry. A lot of it tends to be with public education, where we started a number of initiatives and we just continue to do so. We've recently just hired an energy coordinator that will take on those initiatives and carry those out.
Sorry, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to determine what those initiatives are. I'm just curious as to what they are. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, I beg your indulgence with regards to the question of on parks and the airport park. To give an update to the member with regards to the receptacle outlets. Oh.
All those in favor of PAH 12?
Mr. Chairman, we're waiting on answers.
That's what I thought, and then someone said no.
Who said no?
So, Mr. Chairman, through you, so can the member, you're looking for a list of all of the...
Well, no, not really all. I'm just trying to get an idea in terms of what those initiatives are with regards to the national energy policy. Well, because funny enough, I was actually reading it read it when preparing for off-reg, because they have some parts of it too, so I was just curious in terms of what is it that you guys are actually doing in that regard.
Mr. Chairman, through you, so my ministry has oversight of the implementation of the national energy policy. So we have oversight committee, and then as was said earlier, we've just hired an energy policy person. We have been carrying out some education programs on the national energy policy. You may have seen those. About conserving electricity, renewables, even on the recent concessions passed by this House on the electric vehicles, bicycles, and EVs. We've done a education campaign around that. We've also done things like Car Free Day. We are driving the installation of charging stations, those sorts of things. But it's all around the oversight on the implementation.
No, well, thanks very much, Mr. Minister. I was just looking at it because it was $659,000. I was just curious. Well, I guess, so we understand, is the charging station then included in this amount? In terms of constructing more charging stations?
Mr. Chairman, Alan Jones again, Chief Officer. I wonder if I could just ask the member to perhaps just be a little bit more specific in terms of what exactly you're after here.
Well, okay.
We have capital projects which we have allocated in in the budget, and then we have obviously the operational side as well.
Okay, well, the MPA3, which is what I'm looking at, I noticed where it says project management, but then it had several issues underneath it. So they said it was, I guess, assuming that you guys, this is costs associated with managing the national energy policy. So the question is, what specific parts of the national energy policy is basically being project managed? And so I was asking the question because I remember at one point that the charging stations were one of the things that were included, I think, somewhere previously. So I'm just wondering if this is a continuation or if this is something new, or are there other initiatives that you guys are doing? So I'm just trying to get an idea in terms of what initiatives under the national energy policy that you guys are implementing.
Right, so through you, Mr. Chairman, just 1 point of clarification. MPA 3 does include national energy policy, but it includes project management for various other things, including Georgetown revitalisation, a new digital strategy, small business development, and a new national infrastructure plan. So the NEP, national energy policy, proportion of that 600 and something is relatively, I wouldn't say small, but it's only a small proportion of the total. But in answer to your question, the National Energy Coordinator has just been hired, as we've already mentioned, and the reason for that is really to, in many ways, jumpstart, I would say, or further accelerate the progress we've made to date in relation to the national energy policy. One thing we need to do is look at, we have a goal of hitting, I think, 70% renewables, which is an extremely aggressive target. So at the moment, we're having to look through the opportunities that are available to try and get somewhere to that target. There will also be other issues such as natural gas, which will be a bridging fuel, not a renewable, of course, but more environmentally clean than some of the other fossil fuels like diesel. So, as was previously mentioned, we will be doing a lot of education, we will be doing research. In some ways, I would describe this as a little bit of pump priming in order to facilitate some of the schemes and initiatives that the National Energy Coordinator is going to be putting together during the next 6 months. So I think with respect to, we need to allow the Energy Policy Coordinator to do her job, get her feet under the table, pull together these projects, and then we'll move ahead. I'm not trying to fudge the answer there,
No, that's fine. Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Jones. I greatly appreciate the answer. Just one last question. I notice it also includes the description of project management of the National Infrastructure Plan. Now, I know there's a plan Cayman that's being done. I think NRA is also doing a national plan in terms of a road plan. And I think that there's also the development plan that's being updated. So this, and the public transport plan, sorry. So with this national infrastructure plan that we're looking at, how does that fit in with all the different other plans in terms of an alignment, synergy, or in sync? How does this fit into, I guess, the overall of what it is that you guys are looking at? Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Chair. It's probably fair to say that the National Infrastructure Plan will include elements of all of those other ones that you've spoken about. A national infrastructure plan is a significant undertaking. It's never been done before. It's a priority of our minister. It's something that we've heard a lot from the private sector over the last couple of years, to the effect that we need, as a government, as a country, we need to better manage our infrastructure so that we're not just doing it sort of piecemeal. In order to get to that national infrastructure policy, we're going to have to break it down into segments, and some of the items that you just identified there will be some of those components within it. So in answer to your question, yes, it will be a conglomerate, if you like, of various other ones brought together, but there will be obviously certain bespoke parts to it that we will come into ourselves. Roads is obviously a prime one, but it goes far beyond roads. It goes to the Georgetown revitalisation, what we're looking to do in the country, what are we looking to do with the West Bay Road corridor, and utilities.
Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for that. I just also want to thank the minister and his ministry for the work that they have been doing on the plan Cayman.ky, and I encourage everyone within the public to visit our website and take a look at some of the stuff that's being discussed and that's out there. Thanks.
Do you wish to make more questions?
No, tomorrow we'll deal with
Oh, you want to pick this up again tomorrow morning? Okay. So we have reached the, I said we would suspend proceedings this evening at 6 o'clock. It's now about 5 minutes after 6. So I would like to go ahead and suspend proceedings at this time. We will reconvene Finance Committee tomorrow morning at 9:30, and we will pick up again with PAH 8 and conclude the deliberations there. So have a good evening, everyone. See you tomorrow morning.
Actually just graduated in December of last year. It's been really quick, a really quick process, but I mean, it's been an incredible journey. This is actually my first pageant. It was a lot different from what I expected it to be. I think, you know, when you haven't actually been in a pageant, you have kind of this idea in your head of how it is, but I think it's actually really different than most people would think. I mean, there's a lot of training that's involved. We had etiquette training, we had runway training, we had our dance rehearsal, we had Toastmasters, which is really important for public speaking and stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of personal development. So it's one of those things where it kind of changed my mind a little bit about what pageants are and what pageants mean to the community and to the girls that participate. I think there's a lot to gain from the experience because you get so much training that I don't really think you can get anywhere else, and it's just a lot of personal growth, and I think all the girls that participated with me can agree that they all grew and became, you know, better versions of themselves.
Going into this, did you expect to win?
I think we had so many great girls. It's really hard to tell. I mean, we had a lot of really great contestants who were really good at speaking. You know, the public really loved them as well, and you can never tell. It just depends. It depends on what the judges are looking for. It depends on, you know, what they think the Miss Cayman should look like, should talk like, should act like, and I mean, it's really down to what they think. So you never know. I think it was a surprise to me, yeah. You know, the Miss Universe pageant is coming up in December, so the next couple of months will be really intense preparing for that. You know, it would be a lot of, you know, gym and I guess a little bit more Toastmasters as well. I think I have to go away for training as well. Probably a few trips for training and wardrobe and stuff. But other than that, I mean, outside of the Miss Universe pageant, I have my own personal platform. I'm really passionate about the environment and climate change, and I would like to do a lot of work with that as well. As you know, Miss Cayman is actually employed with the DOT, Department of Tourism, and obviously our environment is really important when taking into account tourism. So I would really like to see if I can work on a few projects with them as well in terms of the environment and things that I can do.
Living lovely, just slowly. I wanna be with you. 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 I wanna be with you.
I think if you were there or you watched it, I didn't move for a second. I think it took me a couple of seconds to really take it in, like, oh wow, like that's me, like they call my name. Honestly, I didn't know how to feel. There were just so many emotions. I felt like it was just really surreal. If I had to describe it in one word, I would say surreal. I just couldn't believe it. And even a few days after, like it just didn't sink in. I think now it's kind of sinking in the more I talk about it. But yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was really happy though, and I know that my family was so happy too. They were really, really proud. Yeah, yeah, I think all communities were really happy. I think that's the good thing about Cayman. We have such a supportive community, so I think everyone was really happy to see that. I would just like to say to keep it up. I really like the way our community is going. I like that we're growing and that we are becoming more accepting of new cultures, new things, and we have some work to do, I guess, in some areas, but overall, I think we have such a strong and loving community, and I really want us to treasure that and to keep that.
And you can go online to both Radio Cayman and the Cayman Compass for more daily community news headlines. Turning now to today's weather forecast from the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. Today called for moderate to fresh winds and moderate seas for the next 24 hours as a cold front over the Bahamas weakens and the associated high pressure system builds over the western Atlantic Ocean. Radar images show no showers over the Cayman Islands area. Well, today's forecast reached a high of 87 degrees. The forecast calls for mainly fair skies, becoming partly cloudy later today with a 20% chance of showers. Winds are from the northeast at 10 to 15 knots with higher gusts today, 15 to 20 knots tonight. Sea conditions are moderate to slight with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet, becoming moderate to rough with wave heights of 2 to 6 feet later on this evening. A small craft should exercise caution over open water. And you can go online to weather.gov.ky for the latest weather information, which can also be found on the Cayman Islands National Weather Service's Facebook page and on the Weather Radio dial 107.9 FM. Remember, you can download their app, CINWS, for the very latest in our local weather conditions. And that's the latest from us here at CIG Television. If you missed today's news update, you can go to the Cayman Islands Government Facebook page, as well as the CIG Television YouTube channel. I'm Donna Bush. Thanks for joining us, and bye-bye for now. Did you know that planning permission is required for a shed? Did you know you should check with the department as a planning and permit application may be required? Did you know planning permission is required to clear land by mechanical means? You should check with the department as a planning and permit application may be required.
The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service has launched a new service to apply for a police clearance certificate online. To make this process quick and easy, ensure you have digital copies of all required documents readily available. At a minimum, you'll need a copy of your passport photo page. Our website lists the full requirements. If you are using an Apple iOS or Android mobile device, you can use the camera to take photos of these documents while completing your application. After you have read the instructions and are ready to start, type in the alphanumeric string from the CAPTCHA image and click the green button that says Start Application. If you can't read the letters and numbers properly, click Can't Read Image below the photo to try again. To complete your application, you will follow 5 simple steps. These are shown at the top of each page, and the blue circle will always show where you are right now. Enter the requested data in each field. All fields marked with an asterisk are required. Each field has some help information, and please pay attention to the correct format for dates and telephone numbers in particular. When selecting your birthday, you can also use the calendar feature. If a field has a drop-down list, you can scroll through alphabetically or start typing to find the correct option. You will be asked to enter your email address twice to ensure it's correct. This is the address we will use to send you a confirmation email and receipt. Once you have entered all of the required information, click Next at the bottom of the screen. If you click the Cancel Application button at any stage in the process, you will lose everything you've entered so far and be returned to the home page. On this page, answer the questions about past offenses, provide details if relevant, and then click Next. In this step, you will select the type of service being requested and details of the person applying, as well as anyone who might pick up the certificate on his or her behalf. If you select certain options, more information may be required at this stage or later in the process when you are uploading your documents. Finally, select the reasons you are applying and then click Next. If you make a mistake, use the drop-down menu to change the reason or click the red X to delete a line. Remember, if you click the Cancel Application button at any stage in the process, you will lose everything you've entered so far and be returned to the home page. If you need to go back to a previous page to review or change data you already entered, you can use the Back button. You can also navigate through the process using the links at the top of the page. On this page, you will be asked for the relevant digital documents to support your application. On each line, click the Upload icon, select the correct file, and then click Upload. Repeat this process for each document. Based on the information you've already entered, this page will tell you the basic documents required. However, please remember to read the guidance notes to ensure you've included everything for your particular application. You can click the Upload More Documents button if you need to add more files, using the Comments field to briefly explain the additional documents you are submitting. If you go back to previous sections after uploading documents and make changes that affect these requirements, you may need to re-upload your documents. This is the final page before submission. Please review all information provided to ensure it is accurate and complete. You won't be able to change anything on this page, but you can use the Back button or the links at the top of the page to return to earlier pages and update any field. By submitting this application, you are declaring that the information provided is accurate and truthful. If you are satisfied with your application, click Proceed to Online Payment. You may need to allow pop-ups and then click the button again to show the payment screen where you will enter your debit or credit card information. The Cayman Islands government accepts Visa and MasterCard, and you can use a debit or credit card issued anywhere in the world. Payment will be processed in Cayman Islands dollars for local service, and in United States dollars for overseas service. If you have questions about any exchange rate that will be used, or foreign currency transaction fees, please contact the bank that issued your card. The Cayman Islands government will not receive or retain your card information. Once your online payment has been authorized, you can view and print your receipt. Click Continue to return to our webpage for details on pickup date and time. If there is an issue with your application and we have to contact you for more information, your application may be delayed. You will also receive a confirmation email with this information and your official receipt. Please remember to bring your passport for identification when you collect your certificate from the Criminal Records Office.
Good afternoon, members of the media, our live viewing and listening public on CIG Television, our YouTube channel, as well as Radio Cayman. Thank you all for joining us here this afternoon, including other guests, for this press conference on the cruise berthing and cargo facility as it relates to the preferred bidder. I'd like to first begin by introducing our Honorable Premier, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin. Seated to his left is our Deputy Premier, the Honorable Moses Kirkernel. And seated to Mr. Kirkernel's left, we have the Chief Officer for the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism, and Transport, Mr. Strand Bodden. To Mr. Bodden's left, we have Mr. Peter Ranger, Chief Project Manager of Major Projects Office at the Public Works Department. And to his left, we have Mr. Jason Robinson, the Senior Manager at KPMG. To the right of our Premier, we have, or to the left of our Premier, from your viewship, we have Mr. Norman Klein, a partner at Appleby, and to his left, we have Mr. Will Jacobs, the Acting Port Director. Welcome to everyone.
Thank you.
We now open the floor to our Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you all for joining us today for what is a highly significant milestone for the future of these beloved Cayman Islands. As I promised in the House on Friday, when formally announcing the selection of the preferred bidder, we are now able to provide the country with more details of the cruise and cargo dock project, a project that secures the future of Cayman's cruise tourism industry and protects the well-being of the thousands of Caymanians who benefit directly or indirectly from cruise tourism. I would also like to acknowledge and thank those members of the Government Caucus who have taken time out of their busy schedules to be here with us today. The winning bid received from the preferred bidder contained 3 options, which Cabinet was able to consider. The differences in the 3 bids essentially involved the extent to which new cargo dock facilities would be improved as part of the project. Having regard to the concerns that have been voiced about the project, while looking to secure long-term benefits for the country, the Cabinet selected the option that minimizes the environmental impact and delivers the best overall financial deal for the country. The established cost for the selected option will be less than 200 million Cayman Islands dollars, subject to the final contract negotiations. The Deputy Premier and Chief Officer Strand Bodden will provide details of this option and the financial arrangement in a few minutes. As I stated on Friday, Vernon Isle Port Partners, the winning bidder, consists of McAlpine Cayman Limited, Orion Marine Construction, Carnival Corporation, and Royal Caribbean Cruises Limited. All of those involved are trusted, world-class companies, and all have had a Cayman connection for decades. As I mentioned on Friday, Orion Marine Construction purchased Meisner Marine Construction, which is the company that previously built the Royal Watler Cruise Terminal, as well as the Creek Dock in Cayman Brac. This is a moment that the majority of the people in our islands have been aiming to get to for at least 20 years. Certainly every government elected since 2000 has had promises of a cruise port in their election manifesto or as part of their delivery plans. It is the hard work done by the last 2 administrations that means we are now, finally, able to announce that we are in a position to proceed with the delivery of the new port facilities this country needs for the future. When we took office in 2013, we set out on a complex process that we knew was necessary to bring us to this point. It was at a press conference like this on the 28th of October 2015 that I, the Deputy Premier and Chief Officer Bodden, announced to the country that Cabinet had carefully considered the various professional reports on the project and had agreed the previous day to move the cruise berthing facility forward. This included starting conversations on a workable financing model, conversations that included independent legal and accounting experts, the major cruise lines, United Kingdom government, as well as government officials. It has taken almost 4 years to achieve what we have today. A unique financial structure that does not expose the finances